And so cool. Nettie Owens is with us for the second time, so she's a repeat offender now.
I am. You trusted me to come back.
I did. And last time you were talking to us about Momentum Network, which I've had the opportunity to come to several meetings. So I'm telling you, folks, you need to go check it out. You 100%. Can find Nettie on LinkedIn and yeah, get into it and see if it's something that fits 100%. You, because it's really cool. 100%. And you've got your second volume of your book is out now.
Almost. Well, it's in the formatting stage, but it's on the way. And perhaps by the time this is published, it actually will be on the shelves. So it's on pre-order, so that's a good thing.
And then, because, running the Nettie Owens empire, those two things are just a small portion. What else? You're getting into strategy. You're running seminars. I mean, you're doing all kinds of stuff. So.
I am. James is shaking his head because he knows there was a time a few years ago when we were working together, and it was like, and what else? And what else is there?
What else? What else? Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. There was so much content. It was amazing. And even then, I was in awe of how much time how much you got done. But I guess with someone who was a very well renowned home organizer, kind of like I guess you're pretty ruthless with being able to organize your time, and which is why I'm sort of shaking my head. It's like, I can't believe it. It's like, yeah. So
there are moments I shake my head too, because I can't believe it also. I just hold on for dear life and keep going. But there's the book. It's the second book. It'll be published within the year. We'll be just shy of, I think, like a week or two of a year. So kind of cool to get 2 books in 12 months. And I host 2 live events a year. We've been able to continue them even through the pandemic. So we have one coming up at the end of March, and then another one at the end of September. And these events are, a lot of the things that we do online with people, but coming in person and just being able to connect and mastermind and really, really, really get to know people. I mean, that's something that every time at the end of every event, I'll ask, what are you taking away from our time together? And it's just that community. I always hear, the stuff I expect, like, oh, clarity and focus. And then I hear the other things, like, I just felt like I belonged here. I felt welcomed. There were no cliques. There were, everybody was so helpful. And I work really hard to make sure that I find people who embody those values, and they would bring them to the group. And so we have such an interesting and diverse group of people diversity on all levels. Like, it's not just your background, but it might be your spiritual beliefs or your physical capabilities, or, whether you went to school or whether you had more of a difficult start and you might have went to the school of hard knocks. Like, there's just such an amazing diversity in the people that come, and yet they all sit down and help each other. And so for 3 days, we strategize and network and mastermind, and we eat together. It might not show, but I love to feed people. And so at these events, there's a focus on eating really good food, and just, that communion, really. And we even have a portion of our event where we kind of take communion, and not so much in a religious way, but we do. I'm just going to fill you in. Okay, so it's secret, but I'm going to broadcast it to the whole world now. At the start of every day, we take a blackberry, and we imagine what we want to achieve, and we infuse the blackberry with our imagining, and then we ingest the blackberry, and we allow it to just come into our whole being. We just imagine that like all the juices and the sugar and all the flavors just going into every cell of our body. And then at the end of the day, we check in, and always people receive what they put into that imagining. So that's a kind of a fun part of it. So the events, we do those. We have the network, which is growing and expanding. It's just been amazing. There was a meeting today, always new people, and always just such cool insights and ideas that come through that. And then, like what you don't see is I run regular programs because I do have a consulting business that I'm running. So there's the regular clients that I work with, and there are two sort of main programs that I work with folks. And then periodically I get called up to speak or do training or things like that. So it's a busy time, and I love every minute of it. So
was there anything during the lockdowns that you did that helps you prepare for this season of your business?
Well, the lockdown was pretty full for me. It came to be that in the past, when I'd have to explain why strategy was important, why we should be focusing on this, and how important staying accountable to the things that you were doing was to your business. Once the pandemic hit, there was no explanation needed. Everybody was pausing and going, oh my gosh, I have to create a strategy, or this isn't going to work, or how do I adapt? And I don't feel very motivated to do this. And how do I get up every day and do it? And suddenly everybody needed the things that I was offering. So my team became very, very busy very quickly, just supporting people and listening to what they needed. And a lot of the masterminds that we're offering now came out of that time. It was just at the very beginning of the pandemic. We had a mastermind every week. Just come in, bring what's showing up for you in your business. Are you still operating? Are you not able to operate? Are you trying to access money? Are you like, what's going on? Just bring it, and we're all going to work on it together. And we did that every single week. And that's tapered off now. We just do them once a month, but that was something that came up, and then we adapted that. Something that came up from the pandemic with regard to the live events was we focused more on keeping people in the event. So in the past, we would have our time during the day, and then you could meet up for dinner if you wanted to. And but some people would go back to their rooms, or they'd go back home if they were close by and they weren't traveling in. But because of the pandemic, we kept everybody close so that the only people they were exposed to were the people that were in the event. And that's something that's carried over to now, is just keeping that kind of closed experience, which has been really good. It's fostered even more, close relationships and trust. I'm not sure there was anything that happened during the pandemic that prepared me for now. It's just that things got really busy really quickly once the pandemic hit.
Amazing.
So what do you think caused it to get busy so fast, as opposed to there were a lot of other businesses and consultants and coaches and whatever titles we want to use for that? What was unique about I think I already know the answer, but I want to hear from you. What was unique about you that made people gravitate towards you and what you were doing? I
have really focused a lot in my professional career about building strong relationships and building trust, and knowing a lot of people in a way that I can connect people. And so I became that trusted advisor, right? So when things weren't going well, I was reaching out and just checking in with people, and they were reaching out to me as well. And if somebody went dark for a while, I'd like, hey, time to get out of bed. It's time to do this thing. And I just stayed on top of how my people were doing, and I think that's probably the differentiator. I wasn't looking for how can I make more money. Although I'm in business, I'm always making sure that what I'm doing is
obviously
important and productive. But at the same time, I knew that if I could support my people and that they could be secure, then I would be secure because of that. So I would say that's probably what was different. But I don't know. I mean, I know some really amazing coaches and consultants, and I don't know beyond that.
And I'm really glad you said that, especially for our audience, that James and I have been preaching this for decades, and you have to reach out to people. You have to be nice to people without an expectation of getting something back. And we all need to continually, especially be helping people that don't seem to be in a position to do anything to reciprocate, because that all builds relationships. And when we look at smaller companies, early stage companies that we're going to invest in, that's what we look at. Do the leaders of the companies have the attitude you just described? Because if they don't, their chances of surviving past infant mortality stage of a business is really low.
Yeah. And I mean, it's something I think that there are some people, some business owners and leaders that know it early on, as they are founding their businesses. And I think that if you are more mature when you are founding your business, you probably have this lesson already. Perhaps younger business owners don't know it yet, and through no fault of their own. I mean, I remember someone telling me, like, it was probably within 2 years of starting my business, and I started my business when I was 25. I'm 24. And they said, yeah, there's this person that basically, he does a lot of networking, and he always just looks to see where he can help someone out. Like if he can help them, or if he can make a connection. And I was like, okay, I'll try that strategy. And that's basically the strategy that I've followed. Either I'm going to make a suggestion for something I can do to help you, or I'm going to connect you to somebody that I know. So oftentimes if I'm hearing a conversation, I'm thinking, oh, well, I know this person and I know that person, and let me make some introductions and see, maybe nothing will come of it, but perhaps something will. And at the end of the day, they've expanded their network either way. So it's a win.
It's a win. James, you look like you have a deep question in your mind there.
Yeah, no, I was just really thinking about how really the last couple of years, and really I was thinking about this when you were talking about your retreats, how really it's given us the opportunity and maybe the kick in the butt to step up and be better humans and find a human side of business. And I think it goes without saying that probably 99% of certainly 99% of, let's say, the Western planet, but 99% of people have felt vulnerable at some stage in the last couple of years. And I would just think that did you feel the importance of your live events became even more important because in some ways it's like, yeah, well, Zoom calls are great. Hopefully it cuts air travel down. Hopefully our grandkids might have a slightly better planet, but in many ways it's kind of isolated, isn't it? And I know some people have just retreated further and further, like into the online world, and retreated away. And there's been a lot of fear around masks and spreading and etc., like all that stuff, which really, I feel, being a bit outspoken, I feel dehumanizes us all. So I wondered, have you found that there's been almost a greater urgency or more vulnerability or more powerful kind of stuff going on in those live events?
So there was a time when I was imagining I would do these same 2 live events and perhaps have 30 to 50 people and have a larger event, thinking like Grant Cardone 10X, massive thing. I have no interest in that in that large live event anymore. And our small events are capped at 30 people at this point. We've really just focused in on creating an amazing experience in a small, intimate setting. And, perhaps that could change. I'm always open, to that. But it really became a matter of looking at what is going to make this very impactful for the people who are here. And so, like I said, we brought it so that like all your meals were basically, in-house, and we encouraged people to stay in the venue, which is this amazing bed and breakfast, so you really just get immersed in this, wonderful environment where you're feeling supported and taken care of. And then we did other things that helped improve communication. So everybody gets a name tag, and depending on the stickers that you put on your name tag, you indicate whether you're comfortable with human contact or not, or you just want to be asked. And so it doesn't like isolate anyone, but if you really would prefer to not, have a hug or a handshake, you just put it on your name tag and everybody's aware to kind of look and be mindful. And if you, otherwise, they have a conversation, and that's different because I think in the past, people weren't necessarily comfortable with speaking up about what they needed to feel comfortable in a situation. And we've done a lot to help foster that communication. And then just we changed our venue, was out of necessity. The place where we had been hosting them, they weren't accepting any events. And so we changed our venue. And so the venue is now this pavilion that has open sides. So lots and lots of airflow, and we do things like everybody stays at their same table all day, and then they change the linens and people can move around the next day and pick a different seat. So we did a lot of stuff that would just really cater to the most uncomfortable person in the room. And that actually made it better for everyone, because we were doing so much to make sure that person felt comfortable, that there was just a lot more communication. And we've even done things like, here in the States, with vaccines, and that's been such a big hot topic. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted people to feel like, in this event. And so we came to the conclusion of asking vaccine status, but it's kept confidential, and we simply give a percentage. And we say percent of people are vaccinated, and you need to make your decision, knowing that. And that was also helpful because it honored the people who chose to get vaccinated, and those who didn't, that was their choice. We didn't broadcast it. We didn't isolate people from coming, but we allowed them to make that choice. So I think just the ability to put more of a human face on it, to allow people the space to advocate for their needs, to have more conversations and normalize that, those are some of the things that have come out of our experience in doing live events. And it's been, I think it's been good.
I think it goes without saying that the world's going to need a healing period, however we come out of this, whatever happens in the next 6, 12, 24 months. And everyone's been affected to a lesser or a greater degree. And I was just thinking, when you were saying how you've kind of adapted to the needs, but how it's actually created like you were saying that it's almost created a better environment because it's open conversations, but no one's felt sort of pressured about their vac status or not, or like whatever it was. But wouldn't it be amazing if like these sort of business settings could create healing, kind of like the combination of business and healing? And I doubt anyone's ever thought about this, but it just came into my head then, because just hearing about your retreats. Like, healing doesn't have to be going for a massage. It could be going and having, as you said, like a loving, safe environment where there's lovely food and everyone's needs are kind of considered and catered for.
Yeah. So you're not alone in this particular thought. And at one of the retreats during the pandemic, one of our attendees was connecting back to, I want to say her father or her grandfather, who basically worked himself to death. You know, he just became so stressed and you know, ill from that. And her desire is that you can have a thriving business and be healthy and successful. And creating spaces like this is part of that. There was something that you said, James, early on in the question that you were asking about whether or not I felt like creating an event was important in the midst of the pandemic and bringing people together during that time. And we had one event that was it wasn't even fully virtual, that was hybrid. And that was it. All the rest have been in person. And it was so impactful to come together, even in the hybrid event, to have people there in person, to see people after so many months. And then the first one that was fully in person, it just that experience alone was so healing and needed to bring people back together, to feel like we weren't alone, to you know, to do the things, to continue moving forward and do it in a way that felt comfortable. Our hybrid event was pretty interesting because it was in October 2020, and it was actually my husband's idea, and I thank him so much for coming up with it. But people who came stayed inside their room at the bed and breakfast, and we broadcast the whole thing. I had a camera crew. It was small crew, but there were 4 to 5 of us at any given moment, you know, that were broadcasting the presentation. And the people who were on site would come together for breakfast and dinner, and we'd go for walks and just stay spaced out. And those who were virtual, you know, they would have a break to do the same kinds of things. But when we would have times where there normally would be networking or things like that, we would just, you know, people were given other people's phone numbers, and they were told, like, give this person a call, and then you can go for a walk while you talk, and it doesn't have to be in front of Zoom. We tried to mix things up a little bit, and it was a pretty neat experience. I haven't done it again. It took as much effort to do it in that particular way, and we ran into some bandwidth issues. You know, with so many people being on Zoom in one space. But the bottom line was we made it work, and we had one of our highest attendance ever, you know, at that particular event.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think that's kind of the way forward, isn't it? I mean, rather than, I think, events being kind of squashed or killed, but by this, it's like there's a new way forward, isn't there? It's like, how can we take possibly what caused people to feel most vulnerable and then cater to that and then carry it on, not like because there's going to be a healing time, but why not carry it on anyway? Like regardless of whether it, but it's really amazing. I mean, it's really lovely to hear how people. I think that's really exciting, isn't it? I mean, out of everything which sort of rattles our cage, which sort of kind of comes up and really affects us all at a deep level, I always try to think, well, what can come out of that to make it like a more positive outcome? And yeah, I mean, I think just giving that opportunity for people to embrace what they feel they've had to embrace, but also maybe combine that with business as well. Yeah.
I think there's a fantastic opportunity, and I think there's a lot of conversation that's been had and will continue forward to stop making kind of cookie cutter, one size fits all programs or environments. One of the things that could come out of this is like more closed captioning, for things like this. Well, closed captioning is super helpful on Zoom or on a video environment. It's not something that's as easy to do in a live event, in an in-person event. And yet it can open doors. It can open doors for people who maybe have been shut out from experiences like this because of physical differences. And or people who have compromised immune systems, or people who don't have a support system at home to be able to leave to go to an event. Well, as a mom, I've thought lots of times, I'm like, wow, I'd really love to go to that event, but I have this much travel and I have this, and I don't have a sitter that can, keep my kids for a week. Right. So I guess that's not available. But I do think we're going to see that we're not going to go back fully to events only being in person. We're going to have a blend of things. There's going to be instruction, even just like education, being able to teach more easily online when needed, or when it's a better option than being in person. So my kids haven't had a snow day recently. Snow days used to be a thing, not anymore. As soon as it snows, they just move online. They don't love that.
No, kids everywhere are not rejoicing.
No, but you could go sled down the hill in between classes. Like that's totally a possibility. And you can sleep in a little bit more, and you can have hot cocoa, and maybe do your class by the fireplace. So that's all really fun. But there's opportunities here, and I think you're right. This is a time to really embrace the things that are innovative and working, and are allowing more people to be engaged in the conversation than in the past.
Yeah. Because I like for me, one of the things which I've sort of seen must be seen to be so painful is just the segregation, and I felt that I know millions of people have, and again, it's like, how do we move forward? How do we heal that? How do we bring people back together again? It's how do we provide the opportunities, or because there's so much more to it than just physically bringing people back together. It's as you've mentioned, it's just a feeling that it's the emotional connection. It's just feeling comfortable. It's being able to feel comfortable to go to that vulnerable place, to go and maybe explore that in a safe setting. So for me, again, it's like, how can we move forward and create events, create opportunities to heal the segregation, to heal the fear, and hopefully go to a better place.
There was an interesting article that came out, I want to say a year ago, maybe. It could have been even a little bit longer than that, and I can find it and send it along. But the gist of it was, our brains actually do kind of get dusty when we don't interact with people. And so part of getting back into in-person kinds of experiences is an understanding that it might be a little slow and wonky, like right at the beginning. And we can kind of just like riding a bike, after a while, you kind of get back into it, and it's fine, but it might be a little off balance for just that first couple of pedals. That's kind of what this research was showing, is that we do perhaps lose the ability to understand expressions, or be comfortable. Like, what's a comfortable space between you and the person in front of you? It's just little things, right, that we forget. We need to relearn, and so there just might be some adjustment. I don't know if that's a day or a week or a few minutes, of kind of letting your brain get settled back in. But there actually is a brain difference that happens when you're isolated and then come back into being around people.
Yeah.
So that's something that really hit home to me the past 2 years. It's one of those things we all know it intuitively, but if we don't think about it, we don't remember to do it. And that's just simply to ask people, how am I coming across? What are you hearing? Particularly people that are different from me or different thinkers, different attitudes, whatever. It's like, are you hearing what I think I'm saying? It's a very important question.
Did I just say that out loud? I haven't had anybody to hear me speak out loud for a while. So did I just say that out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're coming up pretty close to our time. Well, first of all, is there going to be a volume 3? And you need to say yes. Secondly, what's different between
Mike's just give me another 12 months worth of work there, Nettie.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
Well, I will say volume 3 is already underway, although I've taken my foot off the gas pedal a little bit because I don't think that publishing, 2 books in a year is really going to be my future going forward. But yes, there is a volume 3, and it's going to be focused more on productivity and productivity differences between people. And so exploring some of those ideas. The second volume really has a focus on flourishing in uncertainty. That's the subtitle. So I'm excited because it explores ways to flourish in uncertainty. And that could be what we just experienced or the next thing that comes down the pike, or just your own personal, ups and downs, which are so normal during, business ownership, entrepreneurship. So I'm excited for that, to come out, volume 2. But yes, volume 3 it's in my mind, and just getting through the launch of this book, and then I'll be picking that energy back up to get going on the next one.
And how's your staff doing? I got to meet some of those really cool people at the network meetings. I thought they were you put together a really good team. Are you going to do some articles on how you build your teams? Or?
Ooh, no one has ever asked me that. So food for thought. Just for you, Mike, I will put together some articles on how I built my team, but that's not a bad idea. I try to find amazing people. I feel like I've done a pretty good job of it, and they're all over. We have people from the Philippines, Pakistan, Minnesota in the US, and Texas, and Maryland and Pennsylvania, just all over. But I think it's important to really bring people together on your values and on your vision for what you're creating, because skills can be taught. So that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the years is, you find people who align with you and believe in the same way, or perhaps believe in the same way isn't quite the right way to phrase it, because having people that can challenge your beliefs is not a bad thing on your team. But to really uphold that, whatever your culture is in your company. And then you give them the skills if they're trainable, and you've got a great team from there.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's brilliant. I can't wait to start reading these articles.
Mike, you're giving me more to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like that. I'm completely unemployable by anywhere. That's why James and I had to start our own company. But on the other hand, my brain works in a lot of different directions, and so it all comes together eventually when there's an adult in the room to help me with it. But
oh my gosh. Well, keep asking the questions, keep being curious, because I find it just amazing to ponder on the things that are bubbling up, that you're asking questions about. So I'm thankful for that.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, but this is what happens when you talk to former rocket engineers. And my first meeting with James, he just shook his head. He's like, "Are you speaking English?"
No, I'm sure there was a little Greek. I mean, rocket engineering, there's got to be a little Greek in there.
A lot, yeah.
There's got to be some scary symbols.
They're not scary symbols.
No, well, the truth be told, that I actually learned, I was taught ancient Greek when I was 8 years old or something for a couple of years. So,
What?
yeah.
All right, that's an amazing piece of information I need to remember. And
I know.
And
Latin as well, actually. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a long gone, but George's family's Greek, so really, I've never had that conversation, but I'm sure that he'd be more than willing to show me a few of those amazing characters or whatever they're called, and yeah.
Excellent.
So that's our second interview with Nettie, and super excited. Thank you for coming back.
I'm happy to be back, and I would love. I've made some little tweaks to the success guide that I shared with you all last time. If anybody would like or anybody didn't listen to the first interview and would like to grab a copy of that, I can share how to get it. And the cool thing is that networking group that Mike mentioned, if you access the success guide, you will also have access to join us for networking. So it's kind of a 2-for-1.
Brilliant. And definitely do that, folks. Check it out.
Yep.
Like with anything you do, go in there with an open mind and check it out. I think you're gonna find it well worthwhile. So you have any final thoughts to share, Nettie or James? Or
I'm always thankful to come together and have conversations. It's really, as we've discussed in this conversation, it's the foundation of building relationships and understanding people. So final thoughts are, just be willing to talk to people who you might perceive as different from you and have a different perspective, and see where there's some common ground and what you can build together.
Well, thanks for being here. And folks, to get a hold of Nettie, we'll have all the information down below this video. So, and a link to get her guide that I highly recommend.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.